The Frenchie. This is one of my go-to confidence nymphs when I'm not quite sure what fish are eating. It's got a slim profile, a tungsten bead to get it down fast, and a hotspot collar that can trigger strikes even from picky fish. It shines when you're trying to stay in the strike zone, and it's perfect on a double nymph or dry dropper rig. The materials are simple. I've got them here on screen. And if you want the full recipe with sizes and links, we put together a free PDF that you can grab. Scan the QR code on screen or hit the link in the video description. All right, let's start tying. I'll walk you through this step by step. First, slide the bead onto the hook with this small hole facing forward. Sometimes you'll need to give it a little push with your fingernail to get it around the bend of the hook. Once the bead is on, secure the hook and bead in your vise. To help this fly sink a little faster and give the body the right shape, we're going to add 6 to 10 wraps of lead-free wire. To reduce waste, the easiest way I've found is to snip off about 1 to 2 inches of wire. With your hackle pliers in one hand and the wire in the other, clamp the end of the wire to the back of the hook shank and wrap forward 6 to 8 times. After that, helicopter or pull the end of the wire free. Then unclamp the other end of the wire and do your best to bend, wrap, and push it into place so it lines up with the rest of the wraps. Once everything looks good, slide the wire snugly into the back of the bead. Now start your thread right behind the wire and anchor it in with a few wraps. This is called a jam knot. Then trim the tag end. At this point, we're going to build a small thread ramp behind the wire so it can't slide backward. Once you've built up a little thread, go up and over the wire to hold everything in position. And don't worry about making this look pretty, all of it will be covered up later. From there, wrap your thread back toward the bend of the hook to create a smooth thread base for the rest of our materials. Now it's time to add the tail. Pull off about 8 to 10 fibers of a quality Coq de Leon feather. Grab the fibers even in your fingers and hold them parallel to the hook. I like my tail to be about half the length of the hook. So I'll come in with my other hand around the halfway mark, then angle my fingers slightly downward near the tie-in point, and take a few loose wraps to capture the fibers. Make any small adjustments you need, then wrap tight, making sure the fibers stay on top of the hook. This is going to help the tail stay straight. Wrap forward to just behind the lead-free wire, and snip the excess with your tying scissors. Next, we'll add our ribbing wire. Snip off about 1 to 2 inches using your all-purpose scissors, or if you're using your good tying scissors, cut near the hinge so the tips don't dull out. To tie it in, hold the wire at about a 45-degree angle in front of the hook and take a couple loose wraps over it. Slide the wire back until the tip sits just behind the lead-free wire. Once it's in position, wrap back again with smooth, even turns, securing it along the shank as you go. Now we'll build the body using pheasant tail. Grab a quality pheasant tail feather. If you have a center tail, both sides will work. If you have a side tail, one side will be usable while the other will be too webby. Pull off about 8 fibers and trim off the curlies. I like doing this first so I can line up the tips before tying them in. With that prepped, we'll tie the pheasant tail fibers in by the tips, the skinny end. This helps reduce bulk and creates a natural taper from back to front. Once those fibers are secure, wrap your thread forward to the front and do a single turn whip finish to set everything in place. Now you can set your bobbin in your cradle if you have one. This next step is optional, but to make the fly more durable, I like to add a thin coat of super glue or head cement before wrapping the pheasant tail. Next, grab the pheasant tail fibers and make tight touching wraps forward, stopping just behind the bead. If you have a rotary vise, this is a great time to use it. If not, you can do this step the old-fashioned way by hand. Once you reach the front, hold the pheasant tail fibers in place with your non-dominant finger or thumb. Take the bobbin out of the cradle, grab the fibers again with your dominant hand, and go up and over 2 or 3 times to bind everything down. Then add a few tight wraps on both sides, and snip the excess fibers. Next, we'll repeat a similar process with the ribbing wire. Just like before, do a single turn whip finish and place the bobbin back in the cradle. Now we'll wrap the wire forward in even open spirals going in the opposite direction of the pheasant tail wraps. This counter wrap adds some durability to the fly. When you reach the front, hold the wire in your non-dominant hand and go up and over using your other hand. Then add a few tight wraps on both sides to secure the wire. Bend the wire back against itself and helicopter free. I also like to add a couple flat wraps to cover the end of the wire. Now, our Frenchie wouldn't be complete without a little dubbing, and with dubbing, a little goes a long way. I like to snip the corner off the dubbing bag to make this easier. Grab just 2 or 3 fibers. Yep, I'm serious. That's plenty. Pull your bobbin down and twist the dubbing onto the thread in a counterclockwise or right to left direction. Make sure you separate your fingers at the end of the twist. If you just roll back and forth, the dubbing's not going to attach. After a few twists, you should have a short, thin dubbing noodle. Slide it up close to the fly and fill the gap in behind the bead. This fly does have a hotspot, so it's totally fine if you have a little thread showing between the bead and the dubbing. For the finish, I like to apply a small amount of head cement to the thread to improve durability. Add a couple wraps. Grab your whip finisher and give it 3 to 4 turns. Pull tight. Trim the thread. And there you have it, the eye-catching, fish favorite, Frenchie. Just a reminder, if you want the full recipe with sizes and materials, that free PDF is linked below. And we're adding new tutorials every month, so if you want to keep building your box, you can check out the next one right here.